It's Fill Your Plate Now, where every bite brings you closer to the farm gate and further from what's unhealthy. Now here's your hosts, Julie and Tammy, helping you live well by filling your plate well.
So, Julie, you have written a book,
I have written a book.
and I have written a book,
We have.
and we know what it takes
To write a book.
To write a book,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of effort, and there's a lot of drafts and a lot of revisions, and
Right.
it's not easy. And today,
Before you go into that, though, you've got to tell our listeners what your book is.
my book is called Eating for Energy,
Okay.
and just nutrition tips on eating for energy. How about you? Your
And
book?
the farm girl that I wrote a book called Fresh Air, 50 Ways to Experience the Best Things About Country Life Wherever You Live. And people can get your book on Amazon, right?
And yours as well.
Yes.
We're gonna have to do a book exchange.
So
Um,
the young woman that's in the studio with us today, we have full empathy for her because we know what it took.
and the process,
the
yes.
process.
And actually, Dr. Michelle Schack has been
Yes.
with us before. She's a
Yes.
veterinarian. But, through all of her experience and veterinary life with large animals, it motivated her to write a children's book.
Yes.
And we're welcoming Michelle back again today and want to hear a little bit more about this book. What stimulated the idea to write a children's book?
Thank you for having me and for that question. It has been a long process for sure. My book is called Dairy Doc's Discovery Goggles, Milk from Cow to Carton. And it was really inspired by some of the questions I was getting from people I know, neighbors, friends, but then as well on social media. I'm the Dairy Doc online, and I post about dairy cattle and farming and a little glimpse behind the scenes of your milk. And a lot of people have a lot of questions about milk.
And you have over 500,000 followers, don't you?
I
So
do,
You have
yeah.
a lot of people asking questions.
A lot of questions, yes. And some of the questions were quite surprising to me. And some of the questions really identified a gap. And I started thinking, why is there this confusion around milk? And I have kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I realized that we do a really good job teaching our kids that cows go moo and teaching our kids that milk comes from cows. And then we just sort of leave it off. There's not a lot of opportunities for kids to learn the next part. How does it go from the farm to get to your grocery store? So I did a survey of 100 kids, and 88% of them knew that milk comes from cows, which is good.
Pretty good.
Could be
yeah,
better,
yeah.
but not bad. And none of them could explain how the milk gets from the cow to the grocery store. They had no idea, and they weren't even close with their guesses. They were trying to fill in that gap of knowledge with their imaginations and coming up with the craziest answers. But I thought this is where the knowledge gap is. This is where it starts. And then it leads into a lot of confusion as adults around milk and processing and how it gets to your refrigerator at home. But I really thought this is a need for kids. And when I was a kid, I would have loved to have a book like this.
Oh, and it's darling. I love the
Thank
book.
you.
It's great. You did a fantastic job.
Yeah. The illustrations are amazing. But so you did a survey before you began writing the book.
I did. I had
So-
this little idea in my head that I thought it would be a good thing to write about because of the questions I was hearing. And I was trying to decide, is this the part of the process that I want to highlight? There's so many things you could write a
Right.
children's book about, right?
Uh-huh.
And I thought, I think that this is where the confusion starts. Because if you think about it, a lot of these misconceptions that we hear around processing, pasteurization, how the milk gets from the cow to you at home, a lot of these misconceptions really stem from the idea that it can be kind of scary. If you think that the farmer basically hands the milk to the grocery store and then you grow up and you learn that there's all these things that happen in between, that can be a little bit scary for people. And I wanted to introduce that concept early so kids can understand that this is part of the process. This is a normal part of what most milk goes through to get to your grocery store.
But What I was fascinated by in going through the book, the dairy business is complex, taking the milk from the cow to the grocery store. Did you have any, I know you have your own kids, so maybe you utilized their expertise. Did you have any product testers of your book as you were putting it together, at least finishing the writing of it?
Definitely my kids.
There you
They
go.
did a really good job listening to me over and over and over again talk about milk and were very helpful. They are very interested in what I do and also just how things work, where their food comes from, how this journey happens so that they can get the product that ends up in their home. And I think a lot of kids are like that. They really want to understand and they are very curious and they want to learn. I also did several school visits to my kids' school and did some discussion around what it's like to be a veterinarian, how cows are cared for on farm. Both of my kids' classrooms participated in the Adopt a Cow through Discover Dairy and Dairy Management West. And that program really allows a classroom or a school group to be able to adopt a cow virtually. So they get to follow that cow through the school year. Tammy, you can speak more about it, but it was such a positive experience for my kids. And I went in early in the school year and did school visits to both of their classrooms. And that was a big jumpstart to this project.
Yes, one of our dairy farmers, Jen Milliken, is the farmer that has the calves that are in the Adopt a Cow program. And that program is such a hit because so few children are exposed to agriculture and they just love it and they love the animals. And that's what I love about this book. There's a lot of kids that have no exposure to dairy in this case, and it talks about the whole process, which can be very complex. Did you have difficulty explaining certain parts of it that were pretty complex? Because you really do boil it down to very simple language and understandable language for kids. But I imagine it might have been difficult to try to do that.
It was really hard. It was really hard because it's very complex. And I think the hardest thing for me was trying to decide what to include because I couldn't include everything. If you include everything, then that would be a whole chapter book and maybe even a series. Milk is one of the most highly regulated foods on the market, and it is a very safe and nutritious product, but there's a lot that goes into making it that type of product. There really is. And one of my goals was to keep it simple so the kids could understand and get just a little glimpse, but to get them to ask more questions. I wanted this to be a conversation starter so they learn something new and then their minds are open a little bit and they start to get curious, and it gets them really thinking about their food and where it comes from, and it gets them asking more questions.
In your current job as a vet, you're at the dairy all the time, right?
Yes. Yeah, every day I go to dairies as my regular job.
Right. But you're kind of landed on the production side of it. In other words, the farmers taking good care of their cows to produce the milk, and then you're going to be focused on their health. So how did you do your research then from the milk as it leaves the dairy to it showing up in the grocery store? I mean, obviously you had to know some of it, right?
Yes, some of it I knew. Dairy veterinarians play a big role in food safety because animal well-being really impacts the milk that the cows produce, and then milk quality is really impacted with the health and the well-being of the animals. And so there's a lot that we as veterinarians do already partake in. But beyond that, the plant side of things definitely is not where I am every day, but I have toured the plant here in Tempe in order to post videos about the milk process because I had gotten a lot of questions. So in the past, I have toured the plant and I've asked a lot of questions. They've been a great resource for me. Specifically for this book, I actually worked with the plant manager, Steve Baxley, on some questions that I had to help get those answered and to make sure that the illustrations were accurate, because I did really want to portray things accurately. I wanted to simplify them for kids, but not to miss the point of what we're doing at the plant or throughout the process. So the accuracy was really important to me, and I definitely consulted many people along the way.
You did a great job with that.
Thank
She
you.
really did. But what I think's fun to hear that I didn't realize is because of how embedded you are in social media, you were already checking some of these things out. You actually did some pre-planned research that you didn't even realize would eventually come into a children's book. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, years ago, multiple times actually, I've been through to take some video footage to answer specific questions, to make some videos helping explain gaps in knowledge that I've identified for a long time. And then I was able to draw on that for this book. And then also I worked with some of my clients, our dairy farmers, our dairy farm families. They know a lot about milk and how it's processed as well. And some of the things I depicted here are on-farm practices too. For example, the bulk tank and the milk truck that comes. I talked to milk truck drivers as well. I think that every part of the process is a lot more complex than we realize. And one of my big goals for the book was to highlight that it's really a team effort to get milk to your refrigerator. There's a lot of people behind this process. It's not a cold factory-based process. There's people working hard to get that milk to the store. And I really wanted to show that. And there's a lot of different things in dairy that a lot of people have never thought about.
It is quite a process. And
Yeah.
I love that kids can use their imagination with the book too.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about the magic goggles that go with the book and how you came up with that.
Yes, I wear goggles on my head in a lot of the videos that you see of me online because I use an ultrasound machine in my daily work as a veterinarian, which means that I use an ultrasound machine and then on my head I wear goggles that Bluetooth to that ultrasound machine. So that's the screen that I can see the ultrasound in. So as a part of my health checks for cows, pregnancy diagnosis, general physical exams, that ultrasound machine is a big part of what I do. It's a big tool that I use on farms. So a lot of people know me as a dairy doc online and they see me with those goggles. I had thought about what can I do? How can I present this topic to kids that will be fun and imaginative? And then I actually went out with Ag in the Classroom through Arizona, and they do use VR goggles to show kids in classrooms different farms across Arizona. And they were creating one for dairy and asked me to help be a part of that. So I went out and filmed some with them, and I started to put the two together and thought, well, what if it's the goggles that I wear, but they're kind of like VR goggles. And then I sort of thought of Magic School Bus style where they're being transported, and that could be the vehicle that transports the kids. So these goggles in the book are taking kids to each step of the process and then also have an X-ray vision so they can see inside the bulk tank. They can see inside the milk truck. They can see inside the pasteurization process. And that's a really fun way that kids really get into.
The Arizona Farm Bureau's Ag Education Program, the Ag in the Classroom, is headed up by Katie Akins, and I believe next year they're going to use this as their book, correct?
They have a spring ag literacy program, and in 2027, they will be passing this book out to 800 schools across Arizona, which is really, really fun for me to be a part of that program. And I've been working with them on some companion resources that go with it and speaking with other ag literacy groups as well.
That's awesome.
And who is your target for this? I mean, obviously kids, but is there a certain age range you're trying to shoot for with this book that it really impacts?
The book is for 4 to 8-year-olds. I did that because in my daughter's kindergarten class, they were doing a farm unit where they were learning about farms. And I thought, this is really cool. This would be such a great resource to use in classrooms. And so really my bigger target is schools and ag literacy programs that are actually getting these out to wider audiences and using these resources to help teach and educate. So it's a STEM-based book. It has a glossary at the end. It introduces specific terms and explains them during the book and explains the processes. And my goal is to get it used in classrooms.
That's fantastic. So few people have exposure to agriculture. and kids as well. It's nice for them to have this opportunity.
Absolutely. I think that there is so much we can do to help convey the things that we see every day in agriculture to kids that may never have gotten the chance to, and maybe their parents didn't get the chance to. It's easy to see people's comments online and judge them. And I see a lot of people will
bet you
respond
do.
to a comment. Yeah. And a lot of people will respond and say, what have you? It's clear you've never stepped foot on a farm before, as if that's a bad thing, but maybe they never got the opportunity to. So, as much as we can share what we're doing and educate others and give them a little behind the scenes glimpse, most people are really excited about that.
Right. And showing that empathy so that you keep them engaged so that you can tell the story. And this can be whether it's the actual publishing book process or even what you had to do for your own research for those sections of it that you weren't familiar with. So what was the most surprising experience in this whole, whether it's the publishing or the writing or the research?
The most surprising experience was, I guess, twofold. Beforehand, as I was creating it, was the illustrations and the book layout. I didn't really understand how all that worked, and it was definitely a learning experience for me. I was lucky to have a really great illustrator. Pablo Lopez did an amazing job.
They are precious illustrations.
Really good, and really conveyed what I wanted them to convey. But my goal was to have them be accurate, but then also simple and fun for kids. And incorporating the words into that and how the pages were laid out, that was really surprising, the amount of thought that had to go into that part and the amount of revisions that it took. And then I guess afterwards, a surprising thing to me has been how adults have responded to the book, to be
good.
honest. Yeah.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah,
Yes.
what do the adults think?
They love it. And
Good.
they all say that they've learned something. There's things that they never knew, or things that they kind of sort of knew, but now they're able to see behind the scenes and they want to learn more. They're asking more questions. That's been a lot of fun to see how I'm not just reaching kids, but the whole community.
Did I get a vibe that this is a series, will become part of a series, or you're hoping for that?
I am hoping for that. It's on Amazon, available on Amazon, and it's in the series of Dairy Docs Discovery Goggles. It's book 1 of 1 right now, but the goal is for there to be more. I think that there could be a whole series of topics to cover within dairy and helping kids understand where their food comes from. And I think this is just the beginning.
And have you gotten some memorable feedback from some of your readers?
Absolutely. The kids really enjoy it. I went to my daughter's classroom and did a reading, and they were so excited. In the book, there is a little button that you click to view it on X-ray. And then there's another button that you push to see it, to go to a new section, to transport to a new location within the process on these goggles. And the kids love to beep and click and put on their pretend goggles. And that was really fun. I took a video of it and it's on my socials, but you can hear the kids say beep and you can see them all try to put on their goggles. It's really, really sweet. And they just get really into it because they have great imaginations, kids do.
Well, the title of the book is Milk from Cow to Carton. And I'm just throwing that out there so listeners, if they've been hearing this exciting story and maybe they didn't catch the title, is there a favorite part of the book for children? Or
Kids love seeing the cow.
Okay.
They love to see the cow. So on the very first page, we start in the grocery store, and then the kids are wondering, how does the milk get there? We put on our discovery goggles, and the first place it takes you is to a cow on a farm, and the kids love that. They're transported from the store to the cow. It's their first vision of being able to use the goggles to go to a new place, and they get so excited, and they love seeing cows. They really do. And I tried to portray this cow as a typical cow on a typical Arizona dairy farm. Very often we see cows in picture books on green grass with a big red barn behind them. And by all means, there are farms like that
Yeah.
that do exist in the world, but not here in Arizona
Right.
because
No.
it's really challenging to do that. So most cows here in Arizona are on dry lots. And I put this cow on a dry lot with a big shade structure in the background with lots of space to walk around and other cows in there. And we're right there in the pen with her. And I wanted to showcase that style of dairy farming because I think it's important to represent that as well.
And what age group are you catering to if you did any testing on that? Is it, what, kindergarten to third grade or kindergarten
Yeah,
to
that's kind of kindergarten to third grade. The kindergartners can't read it, but they like to listen to it and they like to follow along in the story. And by third grade, they're reading it. I read it to some fourth graders and they were really interested in it as well. And they were taking it to the next level. It's a simple book for them, but introducing concepts that they haven't heard before. And they were taking those ideas and really thinking critically about it and asking
Wow.
really good questions.
I bet that could be a great book for teachers to springboard off of into ag lessons.
Absolutely. That's the goal.
Love it that you say adults like it too.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about surprises. Any unexpected challenges that you came up against?
The biggest thing was trying to figure out what to include. I mean, I talked about pasteurization and homogenization. Those were the two processes at the plant that I highlighted. But we could do a whole book on just how it gets into the bottle. We could do a whole book on how the milk is tested. We could do a whole book on standardization. There's so many things that we could show that a lot of people have no idea about, and I'd love to do more books on this, but I chose those two, pasteurization and homogenization, because I thought that's the most common milk that they're going to find in the grocery store, and I wanted them to be able to understand that milk that they see in the grocery store.
And especially pasteurization, how important it is in the whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of confusion around pasteurization. I see that online a lot. People think it's a chemical process. People think it's very complicated or it's destroying the milk. And so I explain in the book, it's very simple. We're heating the milk up and cooling it back down, and that's it.
Right.
I think when you distill it down to the simple terms, most people can get their minds around that, and then the concept is introduced. We can talk about ultra pasteurized, and we can talk about all the different types of pasteurization in the future as the kids get older, but just introducing the concept that pasteurization means that it's heated up and cooled back down. And a lot of kids, after reading the book, they sit there at their tables at home. I've been hearing a lot of feedback. They'll sit there at their tables at home and look at their milk jug, and the milk says pasteurized, homogenized, most milk that you buy in the grocery store. And now they can recognize those words on the label. And I think that's pretty cool.
Recognize and probably understand it a lot better too.
Yeah.
So how'd you find, full-time vet, you have 2 kids, busy back and forth. How'd you find the time to do this book?
A lot of nights and weekends.
I bet.
My kids are probably tired of hearing me talk about milk.
Well, it seems like you had just mentioned it yesterday. I'm sure it's been a longer process than that, but how long did it take to?
It took about 6 months,
Okay.
which was pretty super speed. I worked really hard on it, and I worked very quickly, and my illustrator was really, really great. And then I self-published it so that the whole process went a little bit quicker, but it was a long process, and I think it probably would normally take longer than that even.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about the book that I wrote, but I know it's longer than 6 months. The neat thing, though, is if you land on a topic like you did, where it's like a topic, yes, the whole, once the milk leaves the dairy, maybe you had to do a lot more research, but the whole industry you understand and then you have a passion for it, so it probably made it a little bit easier to write it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun to write.
So, any teasers on what kind of book you're going to do next, or an area that you think deserves more attention?
I currently have a whole list going, so I welcome suggestions because I've been getting a lot of suggestions and I keep adding it to the list. I just want to talk about cows all day long, so I think it would be cool to do one about how the cow works, how milk is made in the cow, and talk about what goes into caring for a cow. But I also have a lot of people that want to learn how cheese or ice cream is made. So we'll see.
Yay.
Yeah. Or the
Yeah.
sustainable aspects of a
Yes,
cow as far as the
absolutely.
things they eat.
Mm-hmm.
You've
Well,
got a whole series
Yes,
there.
there's so
Yeah.
much potential. So much potential.
Well, and one of the things I think you're not intimidated by, and you can respond to this, some of these issues are complex and you're still writing about them. So you can take it and translate it for little eyes and ears to hear and see and say, I understand this now. Is that what you're thinking too? I mean,
Yes, I think right now at this age, we're just introducing concepts, right? And so I try not to put too much pressure that we have to go into every little step of every little process. If we can just introduce the concepts so that it's not a scary word later on, just a word on a label on their milk jug, I want them to say, yeah, okay, I recognize that and I know generally what it means. And as they get older, they can go look it up and do some research or learn a little bit more about what that means more specifically. But at least we've introduced the concept, because I really think that some of the things that I hear online, some of these misconceptions, it's honestly exactly the same thing that the kids did. Their imaginations are filling in the gap, but now we have grown-up imaginations filling in the gap. They never were taught it, and then they get introduced to this concept, or they read the word homogenized on the label, and that looks scary. It sounds scary. Their imaginations are jumping to the biggest, scariest conclusions that they can come to. Whereas if we can just introduce these concepts earlier, then we're now just setting the foundation for them to have a better understanding of their food in the future.
Absolutely, yeah. Because case in point, during the pandemic, there were transportation issues. Cows don't stop producing milk. And at one point, milk had to be dumped. And there was an outrage because consumers were saying, why don't you donate that milk? Or why don't you, let people come get that milk? Well, it was raw milk. It hadn't been processed. So there was a potential danger that they could get sick from it, and it couldn't be just given away. And the consumer just did not understand that whole process at the time, that you have to heat the milk. You have to pasteurize the milk and heat it and cool it to make it safe for consumption. And all of the steps that you go over that it has to go through to get there.
Yeah. It's quite a complex process, and there's a lot of regulations and law surrounding it, making sure that this food is safe for when it gets to the grocery store. And it's not just milk. All dairy products are going through these similar processes. And I wanted to just bring that up to get their minds thinking and get them curious about this, because everybody loves a good behind the scenes look at something, and everybody loves a good how things work, and it's doing really well. I mean, I not only is it being used in Arizona, I've sold a lot of copies on Amazon. It's a top new release on Amazon in its category, and there's other ag literacy programs that are considering it for their programming as well, which is amazing.
That's fantastic. I know you had to streamline it because you could only include so much. Was there pieces that you had to pull out that you really didn't want to?
Yeah, I really wanted to put standardization in there. I really wanted to. And that is for the listeners. That's how we get non-fat, 1%, 2%, and whole milk, is we standardize it to meet those requirements. But it was just trying to explain all of that to the kids, I felt like would take a really big chunk of space, and I didn't want to lose their attention. So I took that out. That could be a whole book on its own, but a lot of kids wonder what is the difference. And I get a lot of questions about whole milk being whole fat, and they don't understand what that fat content means or what that means for the nutrition of the product as well. And I think that that's a really interesting topic that I enjoy talking about and explaining online, but I just couldn't fit it in the book.
Doesn't the curiosity of children inspire? I can see why you're planning a whole series.
Absolutely. I mean, the kids, they love to learn, and they don't have any preconceived notions about it. They're just genuinely going through their lives, looking around the world and interested in how everything works.
So fun.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
neat.
and tell us again, we can get this on Amazon.
On Amazon, Dairy Doc's Discovery Goggles, Milk from Cow to Carton.
That's great. Thank you so much for being here. It's a great book, and I know that a lot of our listeners will probably be going on Amazon right now to buy it for their children.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I want an autographed copy.
Let's do it. Yes.